Hello, this is your weekly lecture, and today we are looking at Kim Chapter 3. Let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 3 was about implementing and monitoring media. This will most likely be one of the many entry-level jobs you could play in a company. Many of the following slides will be practical and logistical, and I hope at least helpful. So after you've identified your audience, you'll have focus on implementing both listening to audiences and designing before implementing the campaign, all of which covered in chapters 1 and 2. If you haven't read those, go ahead and go back. But after you look at the audiences, you will then implement and monitor the campaign. It's time to launch the campaign. This chapter will focus on implementing and monitoring. So first, it opens with a content calendar. You're probably even wondering what a content calendar is. Content calendars have the goal to capture all of the information that is needed in order to implement the campaign effectively, requiring it to have much more detail compared to the general social media content calendar. So it actually plays out to a very specific amount of information on a calendar. Most importantly, it has a rationale for each of these postings. Unlike what may be assumed is that media is just posted whenever with whatever information. It's actually very specific and it has specific information. With each posting on this content calendar, you need the following information. You need the date that it will be published or going live. You'll need the platform on which it is on. This is really important if you're following many versions, if you're on LinkedIn and YouTube and Snapchat. It needs the organizational objective. How does that file align with the company of whatever it might be? The specific campaign goal, precise intended audiences, keywords and or topics, and actual content of each of these posts. So you're doing a role and you're doing something with social media coordinating. You will plan a calendar with all these specific details, but you need to leave a little bit of wiggle room if there are some changes. Likewise, how you actually respond to the launch of each of these campaigns is also important. So you can do your best planning with a little bit of wiggle room, and then how do you actually respond and launch those will be a little bit different. So let's focus into something more specific. Do you have a content calendar? This is an example of what one of my university calendars look like. This information could be overwhelming at first. It's just the date and the time, you have other events happening, and soon your calendar is looking very mishmash. So your first goal the first discussion question that you'll be filling out is talk to me about the best practices of implementing a content calendar for an organization or a brand. The book gives many highlights, many tips, many best practices. I want you to focus on at least one of those. Talk to me about what the best practices of creating a content calendar might be. So when you actually think of having a content calendar, it's not just going to be the specific material. You also may have to include other pieces of information. Let's get to what happened recently this past week. So you think that something like a baby announcement would be exciting for whomever it might be. This is always going to be exciting news. Maybe you want to strategically plan it. Maybe you don't want to go to a funeral and then maybe announce your pregnancy at this funeral because that would just kind of be a clash of events. Well, this recently happened this past week when Meghan Markle and Prince Harry announced that they were adopting. However, it also was on the Baby Loss Awareness Day, and this certainly did not go over well. You can certainly see how the royal family would be understood as being not considerate for those in this experience. So there was a lot of backlash in terms of them announcing this pregnancy on this kind of holiday. So it can be something some something particular, like being aware of people's holidays and people's values. Something to also think about is if you are running a university calendar, say you're running a university, you would include recruitment, or you want to include various days that are important to the university. Yet, that may not be important days for high schoolers. Maybe prom is a really important day and you want to highlight something with prom and then your university. Maybe you definitely should go over the recruitment dates of the university and make sure that those fall in line with the actual application date. That should be a ramp up. So all of these announcements should be monitored. And so this content calendar might be the specific material, and it also is going to be when to place these postings, when to have certain things in certain days. Anyway, I wonder if the Queen approved this message. So let's go back to chapter 3. What are organizational objectives? You will already have created organizational objectives for a campaign or release of a new product. This is something that would be big and considered important if are you even releasing that product. This is the guide that posts the content. So it's going to be the plan of why you do what you're doing. Without a why, it wouldn't necessarily make sense. All of the postings wouldn't be in some type of similar theme, or they wouldn't have a similar idea. Okay, for instance, right now, if you're going to Lowe's or you're going to Home Depot, this is an example right now of they have an organizational objective. If you look to their website right now, I'm trying to move this around. If you go to their website right now, you will see the following information. You obviously see the main headlines, their tabs, but they also have an additional donate now button here on the left-hand corner. That is to help them support their organizational local communities. So Home Depot says, here are the things that we value, here are the organizational objectives that we have as a company, and all the things should also fall in line with this. So if there is hurricane or there's just needing help in whatever area, in countries, or after a certain disaster, here's how we can do that. This direct link on the page explains their charity work. Normally it might be some type of button about fall decor or cleaning out the gutters. Some type of life cycle of the hurricane assistance would be proven to be 17 days. So in other times, I'm sure Home Depot has tons of knowledge about what the typical cycle is when people are clicking on hurricane relief help on their website or any type of immediate relief. For example, it might be 17 days. So after the 17 days, the drop of people going to the site and using this is significantly decreased. So in this case, they would probably replace this link in the left-hand corner with something that's more attuned to what's currently happening, like their seasonal decor or their, whatever's on sale, paint's on sale. You can see this also on Lowe's website as well. So on this page, you will see the paint in the middle of the page, but you also will see the donate now button. And again, you will have experience, or at least there will be data available in these companies that will say for every disaster period, it's expected to be about 11 days to 14 days. Not that that is the length of the disaster, but that's how the content is driven to our page. It's the most important part in that time period. I can't remember the source, but I heard online dating apps have the highest number of users on Sunday evening. There's some speculation about Sunday evening being like a family night, and unmarried people are focused on defining a date during the next week. And so I've heard that some social media apps, or specifically dating apps, will increase their advertising on other platforms with that knowledge. Okay, so we have some type of implementation. Now, once we begin to launch the campaign, we then need to be able to have a response for it. And so here is where the specifics will be reviewed. Each of the items in the content calendar will be specific and detailed. What are the hashtags that are used to drive other followers to that page? Is the capitalization correct? This is kind of like the last proof of this campaign. Actually, there's an example that came out this week of Wendy's newest burger, but also connected with the pink breast cancer awareness. So we know that this calendar of October being breast cancer awareness, they're going to have other things related to this post. And so this will be already in the content calendar. They know next year in October 2019, that's going to be breast cancer awareness. So they probably have something very similar of so many pink images behind their logos. Also, speaking about cycles, I had a friend that worked at a university printing press, and they published various books, and sometimes they would work on other non-university books, and she helped edit a book that had different recipes or different national holidays and had recipes for those. So for example, January 12th was National Curry Chicken Day, and it looked like the day before they actually had a National Hot Toddy Day, and so they had a recipe for that. And so they knew those specific days, so they matched the book content of every day of a recipe follows that national holiday to their online campaign. So they'd be posting about something like National Donut Day or National Taco Day. They would coordinate that with the extra release or information of the book. I now want to go over a SMART goal. You go ahead and click on a SMART goal link and then come back to us. So go ahead and give yourself a minute to go ahead and click on the next link. All right, now that you've come back, I've assumed that you watched the SMART video and you understand the 5 parts of creating a specific goal. It's not just saying, okay, we're going to post something about newspapers for a newspaper company, but specifically, how can we go over these SMART goals? So this is back to chapter 1 if you haven't read, or back to chapter 2 if you haven't read that, you can go ahead and read that too. So SMART goal, as you know, it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and it's time bound. This will then be able to understand the content and if it's successful or not. You also want to be asking yourself, what's the call to action here? Are you attempting to gain more followers? So you're hosting an Instagram contest. Is that something that you need part of your brand or organization? If you want the audience to follow other similar Instagram influencers, you need to double check that there's a link to direct them to that specific path. If you're having a specific thing of follow these people, click on these links, you need to double and triple check that those links are in line with your SMART goals. So here's discussion question number 2. So I want you to be thinking about your own future. You incorporated, you the student, you are going to be making a plan or at least 3 specific SMART goals for your own Twitter account with the organizational objective that it's going to follow with your job prospects. So you have a goal, eventually finding a job after graduation. So let's find a way to make 3 SMART goals for whatever chosen industry or field you're going to be involved in. Maybe you need to find more information about people with nonprofits and social media. So your discussion question is to look through and find maybe specific hashtags that people are using in that community. And you're going to make a quick calendar. So one SMART goal would be something specific. What would you post on this day? Maybe on Friday by 4 p.m. you're going to post a hashtag about nonprofit raising money by a certain day, or you're going to use a hashtag of a specific language. You're going to make it achievable. Is that achievable that you make this specific goal posted? And is it relevant to what you want to do? It's one thing to be posting about various campaigns and various interaction. I saw a lot of your postings this week about Chipotle's or makeup, or you're at various athletic events. Those are all important, but I want you now to be strategic with what you're posting for at least 3 SMART goals. You can see this description, a couple more information in the discussion boards. So that's implementing, or at least reviewing some parts of the campaign. So I now want to go engaging during a campaign. So when we think about social media and crisis, we have a couple of ways of having this happen. If there is a crisis, do you have someone designated to come in and monitor the alerts? Or option number two, have you already created an online community and you already are responding with those? So it's something that would be built into the system that if something were to go south, you would already know the community and they would alert you. Or do you have systems in place to monitor your progress? You already have metrics in place before you launch the campaign of if you get so many tweets with these kinds of phrasing of don't like this, we're angry about this, the campaign will be able to self-sufficiently notify you. Or last, do you already engage with folks in live time as much as possible to create a dynamic transparent connection? So in this, if things still are going south and whatever crisis is happening, we have a couple ways of understanding this. We like to think of the social media in the following ways of how people consume. So how many times or how many devices do people use at various times to accomplish one task versus simultaneously usage, and that's more than one device at the same time for either related or unrelated activity. So this is now where we're going to sit for discussion question number 3. If you're looking at the users, are they using multiple devices? Say they want to book a flight and they're both on their phone looking at the specific flight times, but then they go to a desktop computer to accomplish that same task and book a task on the computer. You need to be following those trackings because that can then change your click-through rate and also change your actual sales. So here's your discussion question number 3. Give me 2 examples of how you use each of these. Specifically, what are 2 examples for the sequential usage? So one device and it's connected to accomplish one task. So give me 2 examples of when you use those. For instance, you book a flight. And then I also would like 2 examples for simultaneous usage. You have more than one device at the same time for either related or unrelated activity. Maybe if you're sitting down and you're doing financial planning or your FOXPA, you'll have a desktop computer figuring out, but then also you're doing math on a calculator, and then you're also doing more research on an iPad for you to answer those or looking up taxes. This is important because as you're creating the different SMART goals, this would be related. So if people are trying to make your Instagram campaign happen, they might need to be clicking on your link to other people that you want to follow other people. How are they going to go back and either reply to your message or follow those new people? So it's important for this last one of how we currently are consuming on various devices. The book then goes into more specific metrics. It goes into some successes and failures and tips about these. And so I'll also link some of those examples on our page of some of the live examples that they provided of events that went south and what they did either to rectify those or when to change their system and how to respond with the community. But overall, chapter 3 for Kim is going over the understanding of a campaign, implementing and monitoring the campaign. Both of these are very much expected things if you are getting your first job out of college. This will be something that they'll probably say, okay, here's our calendar. Can you go ahead and watch all of these monitorings? Well, I'm going to wrap up, folks. And you should stay tuned that there will be both Tuesday and Thursday online lectures happening. For Thursday specifically, we have a guest speaker, so you should be showing up in the classroom, although there will be online lecture in terms of the guest speaker. So you'll see me online for Tuesday, and on Thursday, you'll be in the classroom, and we'll be talking to Kale Fields. Kale, actually, we've met from my church. She goes to church together, and she used to run all the social media for the Chargers when they were in San Diego. For those of you who are not into sports, the Chargers are a football team. So choose your and all of the materials. So we're talking more about sports and also how to incorporate your Christian faith into your social media job. That's all, folks. Don't forget to be tweeting your material. If you have not had me follow you, or I'm sorry, if you had not had me follow you, you should make sure that you send me a private message, and I can then incorporate you into our Twitter list. Hope you have a great day.